The rumor mill, she is a churning this morning that Apple is looking at buying troubled EV startup Canoo. I woke up this morning to a report from Bloomberg saying this, and well, I wanted to get my thoughts on it today because I think there's some really strong arguments for it, some weak arguments for it, and I've got an opinion as to whether I think it's going to happen at all or not. So welcome back to All Cars Y'all. I am John. I appreciate you being here, and if you don't want to watch to the end of the video, let me say a couple things right up front. The first is this Bloomberg article that brings this up is not actually based on any real reporting or insider information or leaked secret meetings between the companies. It seems to be complete conjecture and a little bit of hopium from, I think, stockholders who want Apple to come in like a white knight and save their sinking stock price. I don't think it's going to happen. That's the end result. But I think it's worth talking about it in a little bit more because there might be an element of truth here, and I'm a little torn as to whether I think it's a good idea or not. So first off, it's probably one of the worst kept secrets in industry right now that Apple wants to build a car. They've been hiring executives from other manufacturers like Ford, including a former CEO of Canoo. And they've been buying other companies that can contribute, like Drive.ai, towards their car. We don't have a lot of information about what this car is going to be, what it's going to look like, but the rumor mill is that Apple wants to have a fully autonomous people-moving pod, is my opinion, right? To the point they've discussed whether they're even going to have a steering wheel in it at all. The problem is that is probably near the end of the decade before that level of technology and perhaps even regulations and insurance would catch up with that. And it's not unusual for companies to buy assets to bulk up somewhere they want to go. I mean, if you think about it, that if Apple has a phone and they wanted, voice control on it, well, you go buy a company that's already working on it and start integrating it. And that's what Apple's been doing. So it's not unusual that if Apple's planning on building a car, they buy a company that's already in that field. And the two companies have a previous relationship. Back in 2020, Apple and Canoo were having some wide-ranging discussions, which apparently varied between a simple investment to acquiring the company. Nothing came out of it, except, of course, that the CEO ended up going to Apple. So there's a relationship here between them, and I would say that because the companies are known quantities to each other. If they said no before, other than price, what makes Canoo a better buy right now? On the plus side, I think that this makes a lot of sense because I think this could accelerate Apple. Now, the big question here to me is, what is Apple's timeline and what are they comfortable with? If they went and bought Canoo, they have 2 factories under construction, headquarters, all the engineering, all the design people in place. They are nearing construction, and within months, literally, Canoo could start producing cars. They already have pre-orders, and Apple can immediately tap into a relatively large and growing segment of the automobile sector. Whether you look at the hundreds of thousands of Teslas that are sold or the tens of thousands of other EVs that are out there, Apple could jump into it immediately, basically by the end of the year, and then add on their Apple features along the way. This could give them an immediate return on their investment, and the cachet of being an Apple car would also, I think, increase sales and buyer security relative to an unknown manufacturer that you don't know if they're going to be around in 2 years. I think that additional engineering and design, the manufacturing, the fact the platform already exists is a huge benefit to Apple, and all of what comes with it for, at the current stock price, what's relatively a bargain and wouldn't ever really impact Apple's bottom line to give them the hundreds of millions they need to get over the hump and start production. But I think the downsides are probably even stronger against this actually happening. Apple has the resources and they've been working for years, and I don't think that the platform is really important to them. Anything I've ever heard about the Apple car has been about the technology. So the platform may not matter to them. In addition, the ability to take a Canoo and start launching it, do they look at it as that would cheapen the Apple brand? Even though I think Canoos look exactly like what Apple would design if they were creating a car from scratch, I think there's a lot of synergy there. But would Apple look at it as diluting their brand by releasing it and not making it Apple special? You know, having that cachet that people really associate with Apple. There may not be a benefit there for them in spite of the brain trust that they could bring on board with the acquisition. The second thing is that Apple might be entirely comfortable with the timeline they've got. If they want to come out and release and be a special Apple car, they may be comfortable with a 5 to 10 year horizon before that ever occurs and may not want to jump into it. And lastly on that, I'll go back to the platform. That one of the big selling points of EVs is that people keep talking about building basically a skateboard platform and being able to put different bodies on it. Certainly Hyundai and Kia are doing that, General Motors with its new EV platform, and Canoo is really sold it as one of their unique differences. But that being said, if Apple's focused on their environment and their driver's aids and their autonomous driving and leapfrogging the entire industry, what platform it rides on may not matter to them so much. They could go partner with GM for the Ultium platform. They could tap into Nissan and the solid state platform that Nissan's working, I believe, towards the end of the decade. They could be partnering with Honda and whatever skunkworks Honda has got going on when they're replacing their use of the GM platform. I'm not sure that the platform is really a big selling point to Apple. And consider if they could get a platform from somewhere else, they have an existing relationship with Foxconn. Apple subs out most of their manufacturing by Foxconn. Foxconn now owns Lordstown. Lordstown is going to produce EVs. It is an absolute no-brainer for Apple to go to Foxconn and say, here, build us a car too. Could they just license the platform from somebody else and design a body on top of it, hire some engineers to design the interior and get the feel right of it and really lean into their own design without ever having to buy the platform itself? I think that's a strong possibility. So in conclusion, do I think it's going to happen? Well, I don't know. But I'd have to say I'm leaning towards no. That probably means that it's absolutely going to, but I'm leaning towards no with one giant exception. Those sales that I talked about for what is potential for Canoo, they have pretty good pre-orders, and certainly the SUV, truck, and car market, their lifestyle vehicle, that's all pretty solid. But I don't think Apple, as a huge company, is going to get terribly excited about 500 million in sales a year. I just don't think that would float their boat. No pun intended. However, Canoo moved to Arkansas, and I continue, although there's never been an ounce of news about this, I continue to hold that Canoo moving to Arkansas and being this close to the Walmart headquarters, building their factory in the next state over, building another factory in Arkansas, I continue to hold that their passenger vehicles are not going to be what keeps them afloat and makes them a successful company. I think it will be their delivery vehicles. I think this is the strong point of customized delivery vehicles for smaller delivery people, or you imagine UPS or Walmart buying fleets of them. I think if there's been some discussions about that, Apple could jump into it, because now you've got an instant, very large revenue stream, guaranteed production, and they get their name out there. I think it makes a financial sense for them at that point. So that's my quick thoughts on it, guys. Let me know your thoughts below, but once again, I'm fascinated with this company, and I'm going to keep an eye on it to see what actually happens. Thanks for being here.